Okay, so let's go, guys. Good morning, everyone. We welcome you to this week RigER webinar, and the topic of today is Implementation Readiness Assessment. So we've all heard about the benefits of implementing different types of software that are supposed to help you work more effective and more efficient. And while the perks of implementing new software sound perfect, the reality is that any implementation is a complex process. Is your company prepared? To answer that question, an implementation readiness assessment needs to be conducted. And during this webinar, we will be sharing a few of the key questions to ask and factors to consider as you weigh your next steps forward. Our company originally was founded almost 10 years ago in Calgary, Alberta, and right now we have offices in Canada, United States, and Europe. Our main mission is to help companies in oil and gas to digitize their operations throughout mobile fuel tickets, asset management, integrations with different other software, and creating custom solutions for them. We can say that RigER as a system is an Oilfield Operations ERP designed specifically for oilfield service and rentals to manage complex operations throughout the entire company. It helps streamline processes and improve data visibility across all departments: purchases, sales, finance, manufacturing, equipment rentals, and oilfield services. Users of RigER have their business processes and document flow implemented in an easy-to-use mobile-to-office enabled digital system that allows them to manage work at all stages of value generation: quote and rental agreement, job scheduling, rental fleet management, oilfield calendar monitoring, field tickets, delivery tickets, asset tracking, management reports, analytics, and more. And from early days of RigER, we ensured that our system was designed to be able to integrate with a diverse array of specialty applications and software systems that our clients use on a daily basis to accomplish their tasks. In support of those commitments, we have developed a series of integrations, including integrations with different accounting and e-billing software, ERPs, Microsoft Office Suite, Business Analytics, Google, tax compliance software, messengers, and more. The ability of RigER to integrate with any software is virtually unlimited and supported by Customs API. And in the next slide, you can see just a few of our current clients, and we are very grateful to all of our clients as they always help us improve, and we welcome new companies to our RigER community. Our presenters today are Michael, who is Chief Product Officer in RigER, and Arsen, who is a software consultant. And today they will talk about readiness assessment. Here's the agenda. We will explain what is pre-implementation roadmap. We will discuss what readiness assessments consist of, like what are implementation success factors, pain points, objectives, desired outcomes, as well as assessing readiness for change, assessing team readiness, common risks, and more. And at the end, we will have a Q&A session where you will be able to ask all your questions that you might have during the webinar. And now I'd like to pass microphone to Michael, and he will tell us more about pre-implementation roadmap. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Dasha. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and let's move forward and see our first topic, the pre-implementation roadmap. And here we will discuss what we usually do when we start the complex project of the RigER implementation for the oilfield service and rental companies. So the pre-implementation roadmap consists from several points, and first of all, we need to gather information, understand where the client state, they assess the processes maturity, and understand, run the readiness assessment. This is a main topic of today's webinar, and we will focus on this topic. But after that, we provide our recommendations, prepare the proposal, and do the implementation itself. So the info gathering, running from the just providing information, client prepare the information, provide us all different aspects of the organization, like organizational structure, line of businesses, geographical operations, department, service and equipment, documents, data sources, software, hardware, all other aspects which are required to assess and understand the entire internal intercompany environment, running a couple of interviews with key persons, understanding how the company operates, what the company goals are, and how the digitalization meet those goals. And the second step is the assess of the process maturity levels. We have 5 levels of the process maturity, and first at ad hoc, kind of a few activities I explicitly defined, and success depending on the individual efforts and the experience. Repeatable, next level, when the basic management processes and controls are established to track processes and the necessary discipline in place to repeat the earlier success. Defined, the third level, when the process is documented, standardized, and integrated with the organizational-wide methodology. Managed, this is the fourth level, very tough to achieve sometimes, but this is the detailed measures of the processes and output quality, and collected the processes and product services and intuitively understood and controlled. And optimized, the continuous process improvement is enabled by quantitative feedback of the processes and from piloting innovative new ideas and technologies. And the good thing about the optimized process is that it's constant improvements, and it's required regular reviews. And this is how the process maturity assessment looks like. We analyze different processes within the company and understand the company average level. And this is how the kind of maturity assessment can look like. We place different processes to the process maturity map and understand the goals, so where we need to move those processes and how we can achieve that. But this happened after the pre-implementation assessment, and I'd like to pass mic to Arsen, and he will tell us about readiness assessment.
Thank you, Michael. Hello, everyone. All right, so let's discuss what we see under readiness assessment, how we conduct it, and what factors are, first of all, involved inside the readiness assessment that we will use trying to understand where we're at and where we want to be. So let's move on to the next slide, please. So the critical factors. Well, first of all, we need to understand what the critical factors are that will make or break our future implementation of the software. First of all, we need to make sure that we have all the available resources, that we can dedicate those resources to the project, and we will need to establish a team. We will need to have, obviously, the time to work through the implementation, and obviously the finances. Next, we will need to assure that our team, and not only the team, but also the senior management and the business ownership, are committed and understand the process and have the implementation team backed to move through the stages of the implementation of the software. Obviously, the main critical factor in the process is going to be the team, because unless we have the dedicated team with the right skill set and the desire to commit, no other resources is really going to matter. And the team will need to be led by the champion, by a person who is, again, backed from the senior management, backed by the business ownership, who is decisive, who can make decisions, who can enforce decisions, who knows the objectives of the project, knows where the current state of the business is and where we're trying to get. Next, we will obviously need to understand whether our goals for the implementation are aligned with the corporate goals. Are we strategically in the same route? Are we going to minimize the impact that the negative impact that the implementation process can have? And obviously, we will need to understand that there will be potential risks, and we will need to plan for the prevention or mitigation of those risks. Let's move on to the next slide and understand the pain points and the desired outcome. Obviously, we need to understand where we are now, where we want to be, after we implement the final product, and what our objectives are during the implementation process. So we will need to clearly define the need for change. We will need to understand what that change can mean for us, and we will need to define the desired outcome, meaning the final goal. Aside from that, we will need to also address the pain points that we have right now that are obstacle for our business to be more successful, to be more resilient for the current market. The main very important factor is also to understand the level of digital maturity of our business, because, and by digital maturity, we mean the not only the team that understands how software works or information technology works, but also the processes that are involved inside your business that are governed either by manual paperwork or information technology artifacts like computers, mobile devices, etc. And since the software obviously is a part of information technology, we will need to assure that our level of digital maturity is at least above average, so we can implement our information technology software. We can assure that everyone knows how to work with it and how to manage it. We will also need to articulate the benefits and the impact that the actual change will have on our final result. Now, the assessment of the readiness for change. First of all, we'll obviously need to validate if our technology requirements align with the requirements of the change, meaning the implementation project with the software implementation project. Next, we will need to understand whether the current hardware we have is enough, which usually is in the current state of the information technology. And if it's not, we will also need to understand if there is a procurement required. Are we going to be buying laptops, workstations, Macs, mobile devices for the field personnel, so on and so forth. The software assessment in this case means the software that you're currently using in maybe a CRM system, maybe an accounting system, which will need to be integrated with the RigER platform in order to have the integration smooth. We will need to run the assessment and understand what software you're currently using. Mobile connectivity considerations. Will you need to have mobile applications that are constantly connected to the network, or will you need applications that will require operational status without network connection? So this is very important to understand in your day-to-day operations, so we have the correct mobile connectivity implemented in the system. And the existence of information technology governance and furthermore information technology and information security policies within your business is very important, because again, we are in the IT industry, we are in the IT implementation stage, we're implementing software, and if you have dedicated IT person or IT department, it will be far more easier to implement the product in the initial stage and later on govern and manage that product. Okay, so the assessments is going to start with obviously the company assessment. We're going to understand what the organizational structure are, what the organizational structure is, whether there are several lines of business or are we operating within just one line. Are we geographically dispersed? Are we just within one region? Do we have several departments that will need to be integrated within the system? Are we doing services? Are we doing equipment rentals? Are we doing, I don't know, something else? All those factors will need to be assessed, and we will need to understand the state of those factors. Now, the again, very important part of the assessment is going to be assessment of the team readiness. First of all, we will need to identify the project sponsors, and those are usually going to be either from the senior management or the business ownership. We will need people who will sponsor the project and will watch through the implementation process and will back every single aspect of it. Next, obviously, we're going to need to assemble a dedicated team with professionals who are committed, collaborative, and will be able to work through the implementation process. It is always a good idea to assemble a team that has a good chemistry working within each other. So the result in that case is almost always going to be faster and more positive than in usual cases. Again, we're going to need to identify the team lead for that, for the team that we assemble. The team lead needs to be able to enforce the decisions, needs to foresee some upcoming obstacles, needs to control the process, so on and so forth. So the team lead also needs to be backed by the senior management and business ownership, and it will need to be a single point of contact for escalating any issues that may come up in the future. We'll also, again, need to assure the digital literacy by just understanding what work experience your team members have, what previous software implementations have been done by any of them. Do they have any information technology education or certifications present or no? Or is the education required or needed in the cases of some team members? Also, we'll need to have availability for your team members to participate in not only through the implementation process, but also to participate within weekly meetings, training sessions, online, on-site, through the other resources that we provide. We will also need to have those people ready to just sit on the system, aside from their day-to-day operations or work they do, to sit on the system, do data or job replication in the system, and to play with it, trying to go through all the processes that the implementation may involve, come up with questions, and maybe address those questions later on. Now, the team, can we please go back to the previous slide, Michael? The team also needs to have strictly and clearly assigned roles and responsibilities for each team member, and each one of them needs to know what they are supposed to do and how they can impact the actual implementation process. And the communication plan in this case is key, because in smaller teams, it's not going to be any issue. Obviously, 2 or 3 people or 5 people implementing a project are going to be okay, working with each other, and they're rarely is going to be any kind of an issue of communication. But if we're talking about big teams, several departments, maybe 10, 20, 50 people involved through the implementation process from all the aspects of the business from different departments, we need to have the communication plan. We need to know who communicates with whom in which cases, and who's going to be answering for what aspects of the implementation project. So let's move on to the next slide. And another step, the data assessment step. Now, by saying data, in this case, we mean what actual data you have, information you have that we will need to implement in the RigER database. First question, obviously, is going to be, do you have any digital data? Do you have existing information that you, work orders, purchase orders, service information, so on and so forth? If you have that data, is it digital? Can it be exported? If it can be exported, it means that we can take the export from you, validate it, and import to the system, so we do not waste time to manually re-entering all the information to the new database. Well, we also need to obviously make sure that we have the availability of the information from the following categories, like assets, like services, consumables, inventory, pricing, job locations, and there are some in the next slide also. So yeah, we will need to first see if they are available, and then see if they're provided, if they are going to be provided later, or in some cases, we will also see that some information may be inputted manually later on ad hoc when the need arises for that type of information. So just for example, so maybe location information is not available, and later on, every single time you create your job, you'll be able to obviously manually just select the location or enter the new location in the system without any hassle. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide and see what documents may be involved in the process. Now, obviously, we're going to ask you, what documents do you operate with on daily basis? Do you use purchase orders, sales quotes, agreements, rental contracts? What type of tickets do you have? What type of repair, maintenance, inspection schedules you have? Do you have any templates? Do you have any software I apologize. Do you have any safety documents? Do you have any HR documents? You have, how many types of invoices do you have? Do you have daily invoices, billing cycles? Do you have multi-well or sub-location invoices, so on and so forth? There is a lot of information that will need to be discussed and addressed. The software assessment part, again, back to the integration between the RigER platform and the current software that you're using. And you might be using accounting in most cases, the other operations management software, inventory and asset tracking software, electronic billing, digital signatures, human resource software, so on and so forth. We will need to understand what you have, what vendor you have it from, what kind of product you have, and in most cases, we will also require to know the version of the product so we can correctly integrate it if required with our own system and just make it seamless for you to operate from within one system to another. Moving on to the next slide, we will need to, excuse me, based on the all previously said, we will need to confirm all the prerequisites. Do we have organizational charts? Do we have flow charts for our business processes if they're documented, like sales operations processes, the dispatching, the field ticketing, purchasing, so on and so forth? Do we require any kind of approval in our day-to-day processes, and what are the procedures for those? What kind of platform are we going to be operating on? Is it Macs? Is it Windows PCs or laptops? Are mobile devices also going to be involved, or is it just cloud? If the mobiles are going to be involved, what type of application are we planning to use? Are we going to be using dispatch, meaning that the dispatchers will need mobile access, or is it just field technicians, or our sales personnel and purchasing personnel will also need to use mobile applications, so on and so forth. Next, obviously, again, the connectivity. Is it going to be offline synchronized or always online, or maybe both? And what type of requirements do we have for asset tracking? Are our assets going to be serialized, non-serialized, maybe in some cases rented from one party and to be rented out to a second party? What kind of requirements do we have for integration with other software, and what kind of requirements we have for repairs, inspections, and maintenance, if that is applicable? Now, after defining the prerequisites, we will need to just understand, not only after, but even prior to starting the implementation process, that there are always going to be some risks that we may face during the implementation process. And from the experience that we have from the last several years, we see common risks such as lack of executive sponsorships and absence of leadership, meaning that there is no team lead, there is no commitment from the business owners or the senior management to see through the implementation process and take it to the point where it's done and the team is ready to work on the new product. So when the lack of executive sponsorship is a thing, there is obviously no single point for escalation. There is no one to make a decision. So again, we will need to understand that we will need to have a dedicated team. We will need to have a team leader who is willing to take control, who can enforce decisions, so on and so forth. Another common risk is the lack of commitment. Now, again, we may have 2-3 people involved in the implementation process. We may have a team of 50 people that is going to go through the implementation process. In any case, if there is no commitment, there is nothing to be done. Because if there is no commitment, people are not going to commit to work. They're going to be saying that they are too busy with their current workloads. They don't want to gain additional responsibility. They don't want to do something. Maybe they're not going to be saying it out loud, but what it's going to lead to is going to be some issues within the team. There are going to be conflicting priorities. The team is going to resist, and there are going to be cases of sabotage, maybe. And ultimately, it will lead either to project delays or a broken implementation. So again, in these cases, we will need to while trying to do the assessment, we'll need to understand what kind of team members we're choosing. Is our team going to be committed? Is our team members going to be connected with each other and collaborative? Will they work on the project and see it through? So it is very crucial to choose the right people for the right team, and the team lead who will be able to see through from start to the end of the implementation project. And Another thing is the usual case is the unrealistic expectations. Like, we're going to buy this software, we're going to put it on our computer, and it's going to do all for us. It's going to run, it's going to be a charm, our business processes are going to be managed, we'll only need to do a couple of clicks. It's not going to be like that. It's not an install and forget solution. There is no magic button. It's a process. We will need to start from the implementation stage. We will need to implement the product, and we will need to train the personnel who's going to be working with the product. And we will need to have a full team, or at least a couple people who will be using the product on constant basis, and support will back the issues that may arise in the future while using the software. So the common risks are obviously, I think we will need to plan for it, we will need to foresee for it, and we'll need to understand how we can mitigate some of the common risks that will arise in the future. Now, on this note, let me pass the microphone back to Michael, who will continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Arsen. Yeah, definitely the magic button, really tough to find, and it's a common expectation from the client. It will be like just one click and you get everything. But definitely the volume of the information which we gathering and which we discussing with the clients are big, and again, it's not because we'd like to take all the information from the client, but because the software covering lots of different aspects of the company's day-to-day operations, and we need to understand as deep as possible on the first readiness assessment, understand what we need to do, what kind of priorities, what is the goal settings for the client. And one of the goal settings could be move the business processes to the next level, make the organization more mature from digital standpoint, from operational standpoint, from organizational standpoint. And definitely it will require the action plan, understanding what needs to be done, what kind of organizational changes should be done, what kind of hardware, software changes needs to be done, and when they needs to be done, and what is the priorities. It's very important to understand and very important to have the project aligned with the company goals. And after the recommendations, when we discuss with the clients our recommendations, sometimes we recommend to not implement software right now, because to start running the project we need to have this and this fixed, or hire more people, because the business do not have enough resources for that. It happens. So when we review the recommendations, we provide the proposal, which usually include the project plan, the timeline, and the budget. So understanding what is our goal, what is the roadmap, and how we will achieve that together. And the example of the implementation project could be kind of just a scope of work and development. Two different pieces what we have in our internal processes. So the scope of work usually describe the configuration, the business processes, all the master data like catalogs, data structure, documents, print forms, reports, and development have different processes: testing, data import, configuration setup, quality control, user training, onboarding, etc. And usually we use phase approach to our implementations, and we have three different steps, or three different models for different plans for our clients. The standard plan includes the basic core business operations in RigER, which include sales, purchasing, or field services, rentals, dispatching, and invoicing. Advanced, usually the second phase, the second step, the integration, mobile, more advanced modules like subrentals, HR, safety. and comprehensive. It's another step, and usually job costing, project management, and integration with business analytics and business intelligence tools, or any other telemetry, for example, integrations. So this is a kind of a standard approach, but definitely based on the company goals, based on the structure, based on the requirements and priorities, this could be adjusted and this could be changed. And of course, the implementation project will include what kind of modules we implement in each stage and how long that phase should last. And usually we see that the manageable period for each phase could be from 2 to 3 months, and then we need to have like kind of a month or two stabilization period, and then start the next phase, because people need to be adjusted, need to be custom and make those new approach on day-to-day operations, and they can move forward and add a new complexity to the software. This is what we do. This is how the entire implementation and pre-implementation process looks like, from step one to final step. Again, this gives us a good understanding and preparation for the implementation, and mitigate the risk, and give us a good base for the successful implementation of RigER. That's it. And we are ready for Q&A session. Do we have any questions?
Let me check if we have any questions here. Yes, so the first question is, how long can the implementation readiness assessment take, and will it involve additional cost?
Yes, so the good question, thank you. It really depends on the size of the organization, and really depends on the complexity of the operations. Of course, if we have a small organization, we usually have this as a 2 to 3 questionnaire sent to the client, review it and provide them feedback and understand the priorities, and it could be done in a day or two. With the big scale organization with multiple stakeholders, different line of businesses and departments, it could last weeks. So it could be from 2 weeks to 4 weeks, depending on the kind of speed of information providing, and availability of the key persons with whom we'd like to run the interviews. So it depends, and definitely it associated with a separate cost, and again, the cost will depend on the complexity and structure of the company, the size of the company. The small guys, they usually the pre-implementation costs include to the implementation process. For the more mid-sized guys, we run this as a separate project. For big guys, yes, we do as a separate project, and in some cases, the readiness assessment, as I mentioned, not lead to the implementation, because there we find out some obstacles or some key factor which is not give us an ability to move forward. So that's the answer.
Thank you, Michael. I do have one more question. What if we don't have our business processes documented? Do we need to do it on our own, or you can help us document it and best align with your methodology?
Yes, so this is a very, very common and typical situation when we see that the business processes are not properly documented or changed. It could be documented, but the actual business process or business operations not correspond to what we have in the paper, which is very common, because the life is not staying, and processes developers, different people's and company growing. So yeah, it could be a third party consultants who have deep understanding of specific processes, and we have that kind of mutual projects in the past. Or it could be our process description. We usually sit down with the clients and describe this before implementing. Anyways, even if we will have a third party process description, we need to adjust or assign and understand how this will work with the software, and maybe run a couple additional modules in the software and create those modules, or run some adjustments in the processes and discuss some details more detailed. But again, it's better to have a description of the processes and than not have. But if you do not have, we can help you with that as well.
Okay, thanks. I guess that's it. No more questions.
Good. So thank you so much. Again, if you have other questions, or you have any specific questions is not corresponding to this topic, please feel free to reach us. We available online, by phone. So yeah, we can be reachable, and we run those webinars regularly. So see you next time. Thank you so much for being with us.